Sue Brayne, thank you so much for joining us. Sue is you must correct me, please, an
I will.
esoteric astrologer. So you work mostly with what we bring to this lifetime and helping people discover their gifts.
I love working with looking at what we've brought in with us, this sort of the energetic. I don't really like using the word karma personally, but it's a kind of the disposition. It could come from a past life, perhaps, or it could be family predisposition or whatever it is. But what have we come in to go beyond this lifetime and actually find our soul's journey and our soul's purpose, what we're doing here? Why have we chosen this lifetime? That for me is the key.
Yeah, which is, I just want to mention that you're coming from wearing your mortality with pride. So kind of from working with how do we celebrate our lives into the next stages. And then you've kind of gone back to the beginning as to what did we come into life?
Well, not really, because for me, I'm also, well, do you ever retire as a therapist? Probably not, but I was a trauma therapist for a long time. So I bring all of that as well, and also a real passion for helping people to talk about end of life and death and dying. And for me, unless we really engage with our mortality, it's really hard to really engage with life. And I think for me, the astrology brings all of that together because it gives us our life story. It gives all the themes of the potential themes of our life. And when we tap into what we're really here to be and to do and to express, rather than being caught in past stuff that we can't see a way out of. I've just been working with somebody, actually, literally just been working with somebody all about this. And it kind of like the light went on for her when she realized actually she was here to care for herself, not just be this dutiful person. And that's a very different connection. And it just, and she said, I want to go to my deathbed knowing who I am. Well, she can if she engages with that and actually really connects with this sense of a destiny. And it's destiny is about, it's not about we have no free will choice. I think we have free will choice in the way that we choose to engage with our life. We're all born with a set of cards, aren't we? We're all born with our astrological chart, and it's going to have challenging aspects and very positive aspects. So there's always a mixture of the two. But it's how do I play my chart to the best of my potential? It's all about potential. That's how I see it, without glossing over the more difficult times, because the difficult challenges push us to express and to reach our potential. That's how I look at astrology.
Yeah. So it's a connection point for us.
Yes, I think it's a recognition point. It's a pattern. It's the cards we're born with. How do I play those cards to the best of my ability? I hate the expression my best self. I absolutely hate it, but it is that. It's how do I walk to my potential? And if you don't know your chart, you're kind of really walking in the darkness. You've got no guide, you've got no light. You're just going, oh, I'm kind of feeling my way here. But when you connect with your chart, it kind of like, oh, I get it. Now I understand. Now I feel like it's not about being in control, but it's about being connected to who you really are, the potential of who you've come here to be. We're all on a learning journey. Oh my gosh, aren't we just?
Yes. Yeah. So what's in store? I don't know.
God, what's up, Doc? Whoa, well. Shall I just launch in?
Yes, go.
Okay. Stop me if you go, I don't know what she's talking about. Okay. So basically, astrologically, this is astrologically,
Mm.
there are three major events, major events this year. The first one is happening on Saturday, and it's Pluto moving into Aquarius. This is what we're all waiting for, the big shift, and I'll come back to that in a minute. The second one is in April, when there's another massive event, if you like, which is Jupiter conjuncts Uranus. That's going to be interesting. All us astrologers are waiting for that one and going, oh, let's see how that one manifests. And then the third major event happens in October, when the eclipse, the spring eclipse, the path of the spring eclipse crosses the path of the October eclipse, and it literally crosses like this in North Texas, where so Americans are going to be able to see the both eclipses happening. And it's very interesting that they're happening in the year of the elections, very near the elections, because the eclipse happens on, and this is really, the eclipse just boots stuff up in sort of energetic terms. So it's going to be a really interesting time in America. And also, America is actually having what we call a Pluto return, and I'll talk about that again in a minute, explain that. So these are the three biggies, but there's lots of other stuff in between. So shall we, I'll start with the fact, lots of people don't know astrology, and I really respect that. So forgive me if, or have you got a chat box of people saying I don't understand? Or yeah, if anybody doesn't understand what I'm talking about, just pop it in the chat box and I'll go over it again. But basically, what we call the outer planets, the big hitters, that's Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So they're kind of regarded as the collective, representing the collective unconscious, because we can't see them in the sky. The last planet we can see is Saturn with the naked eye. And after that, we can't see the other planets. So they're regarded by astrologers as representing the transpersonal, can't be seen, and they're representing the collective unconscious. So, and they are all shifting from earth and water signs, which are kind of quite heavy, into fire and air signs, which is whoosh, fire, inspiration, a frenetic, air, fast moving, communication, innovative, and disruptive. So this is going to be happening within the next 2 years. So astrologers are saying that what's happening, particularly at the moment with Pluto moving into Aquarius. Is everybody with me? Say if you don't understand. You're okay. I'll explain Aquarius as well. It kind of marks the real beginning of this massive shift into air and fire energy. So January will start. January the 20th, Pluto moves into Aquarius. So what is so interesting about this is that the sun that has been moving through Capricorn, obviously it's the time of Capricorn at the moment, is going to be joining up with Pluto at the 29th degree, the very last degree of Capricorn. So that's a very auspicious degree. We astrologers look at that as very auspicious degree. It's very powerful degree. It's what makes it even more powerful is this is the same degree of the great Jupiter Saturn conjunction that happened in 2020 in December 21st. That was the beginning of COVID. So very interesting. Is there a shadow going to play out around about this? Is this Pluto Sun conjunction sitting on that shadow, that energetic shadow of the great conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter? Is it going to play out some way? So Yes, it's all very interesting. Our world radically changed on that great conjunction. So it kind of feels like there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, change happening around about now. And we can see this in the world, can't we? I mean, everything's massively transforming right now. So this time with the Sun and Jupiter, Sun and Pluto conjuncting at the 29th degree, this is really about, the themes are about merging personal power, which is the Sun, with collective power, which is Pluto. And they both move into the sign of Aquarius, which is the sign of social justice, communication, humanitarianism, infrastructure, technology, the future, air sign. So coming from rather turgid earth into this completely different vibe. So it's literally, I would say that the theme around this time is literally looking at the power of the people. But what does that mean? Astrology can't predict events, but what we can do is outline or signpost themes. And the theme here is definitely something to do, literally the power of the people. So we'll see what happens. So anyone who has planets at between 29 degrees Capricorn and let's say 1 degree Aquarius, or the same in Leo, or it's the fixed signs, all of them, which is Taurus or Scorpio, they will be more affected than anyone else. So I'm going to talk about Pluto. Pluto's job is to manifest ordeals, trials, challenges in order for us to transcend our limitations. And this is our lifelong quest. It's always going to be happening. Pluto is always going to be moving around our chart individually and collectively. That's the deal. Pluto is here to shove ordeals our way so that we can find our ways to transform that and grow and develop and evolve as human beings. So Pluto is all about digging down into the depth of our individual and collective psyche. I think that's the only word to describe it, really, to reveal what's hidden. Pluto is about revealing the real truth. So anything hidden, secrets, with Pluto knocking about, they come to the surface. So that's what Pluto's job is. Capricorn, where Pluto has been moving through Capricorn for the last 14 years, is about duty, ambition, resilience, hierarchy, business, top-down structures, the established old order. And when we need Capricorn to help us ground ourselves, to give us ambition, to take responsibility and to mature. That's the higher aspect of Capricorn. But Pluto digs up anything that it isn't the higher expression. So when Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, there was the financial collapse, because in reality, our economy was built on shifting sands. So this collapse began to transform the old order of things. So over the last 14 years, virtually every hierarchical establishment has been exposed in some way and is either had to radically restructure in a different way or is in the process of crumbling. And the old boys school club, Capricorn, is obsolete. And we have to deal with the repercussions of this, because this is very new for us. We know we're 2,000 years of programming into a very sort of hierarchical, dare I say, patriarchal energy is breaking down, and we've got to find our way. We haven't got a map here. We have no idea how to deal with this breakdown. So a lot of people are feeling very uncomfortable. So it's the lovely thing about Capricorn is to really think about what you've learned about yourself over the last 14 years. What's Pluto in Capricorn been teaching you about self-responsibility and resilience? So just if you think about that and maybe, you know, journal it, or just connect with, what have I learned about myself? How have I matured? How have I coped with a sense of losing control, or have I got control issues running in my life? Because when Pluto runs into Aquarius, that's just going to be obsolete as well. So the higher aspect all the time of Pluto is in Capricorn is self-responsibility, maturing into an adult that really has something serious to offer the world, to have a sense of duty without it being a burden. It's stepping up into being a really responsible advocate in your communities and societies. Does that all make sense? Yeah. So it's really important to understand this. So, you know, what are you taking in? What are you taking into this new Aquarian energy? Is it courage and resilience, or is it dread and fear? Aquarius is really good at, it's a fixed air sign, but it's very rebellious. And it kind of likes its freedom. So it doesn't want to be stuck. It wants to be out there doing its thing. So it's really important. If you're feeling dread and fear, then I would just urge you to just find some help around that. Find people to talk to. Yeah, Diana.
Sorry if you said this already, Sue, but how long are we expecting Pluto to be in Aquarius now?
It's going to be in for the next 20 years.
20. Oh, wow.
So it's a long journey.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's even longer than it was in Capricorn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting at this critical juncture. It's very interesting how the scandal about the post office has finally come to public attention as Pluto's just about to move into Aquarius. It's almost as if Pluto's giving kind of like the two fingers up to the establishment, saying nothing and no one is safe from being exposed. Lies lead to truth. So on the 21st, so Saturday's the 20th, Sunday is the 21st, the sun moves into Aquarius. That's the big, it goes in then, followed immediately by Pluto. So we're in Aquarius. And this is the first time that Pluto has been in Aquarius since 1778, which marked the American colonies' revolution against the British colonialists. And that shaped our modern history. Isn't that amazing? So, you know, stand by, everyone. We're in for a treat, and we are in for a treat. So, okay, so 240 years later from 1774, and 240 years is the cycle that Pluto goes round the chart to meet itself in its original place, in whatever chart it is. It's interesting to see that the US and the UK are really teetering as global leaders. And it feels as if, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with me about this, the kind of UK is that the US is fracturing politically, and it's currently experienced its own Pluto return. So it's going through a massive reboot, if you like, very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And I would suggest the UK is doing that too. I think it's teetering as a world leader. And to me, it feels as if the entire world is fracturing right now. We have no idea where this is going. That, you know, what's happening, the difficulties in the world. We just don't know how this fracturing is going to, there is no end to it at the moment. But it kind of needs to be, if we're going to change the way that we live and connect to each other and connect to the planet, and also to our sense of connection with the universe. And this is real Aquarius stuff now. So Aquarius, it's about the collective, the power of the people and social responsibility. I choose to take responsibility for a global vision of freedom. That's Aquarius. Capricorn, which we're leaving, is about hierarchical structures, duty, responsibility, the wagging finger father with the power at the top. So that is, listen to me, I'll tell you what to do. That is no longer an option. So this is huge shift, an absolutely massive shift of energy. So just to go back, Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, and it's just about to move into Aquarius, as I've been saying, but it's going to go back into Capricorn in August to pay a kind of last rites visit to the old order of things that no longer serve us before it finally moves and settles into Aquarius in November 24. And that's for the next 20 years. So I believe then November, that time is really the start, the beginning of the age of Aquarius. And we've got 20 years of goodness knows what, because Pluto's going to be doing a lot of work around this, and I'll explain a bit of that as well. So I find it particularly interesting that 40 countries across the world, including the UK and the US, are holding general elections. Who or what will govern? What the governmental power will look like, we have no idea. Will it be the dictatorship continuing, power struggles, or will it be the people's parliaments? I mean, that's a major shift if it turns into people parliaments or local people creating their local communities politically and socially. So I'm going to watch, you know, and also, you know, this will see a lot of us out of our life, Pluto and Aquarius. So it's going to see me out. So, you know, I'm interested. Are we all okay? Yeah, okay. So let's go to Aquarius. Let's go to the energy of Aquarius. So in contrast to earthy, cautious, ambitious, hierarchical Capricorn, Aquarius is fixed air and attached to the idea of creating utopia. That's the Aquarian highest vision. I want utopia for the world, for humanity, for all of us. So we kind of had a little glimpse of this when Pluto kind of put its toe into Aquarius last year. And that was the time when AI just exploded. But also, so did all the moral dilemmas surrounding AI. And it's kind of just slightly tailed off again, but it's going to be really in all our faces now, particularly as from November onwards. Yeah. So for the next 20 years, Pluto is going to be bringing about global transformational themes which lead to breakthroughs in science, technology, space travel. Let's bring the ETs into our consciousness here, open our doors to them, and all kinds of futuristic thinking. Very, very exciting time. Aquarius is about universal truth. Scorpio is about my truth, but Aquarius is about universal truth. So at the same time, Aquarius is also about the sign of humanity, the collective, friendships, teamworks, and networks, community, diversity. And it's also about our hopes and dreams. So there might be some pretty weird stuff going on to do with all of this. We'll see. And so this could mean that there is a fight for our humanity amongst all the AI technology stuff, for our humanness. I don't know if anybody's heard of Greg Braden, but he talks about this a lot at the moment. He's very, very concerned about this, and I agree with him. And about manifesting, I mean, literally jaw-dropping innovative projects. I mean, flying cars will be nothing. I think, you know, we have, I think there's stuff on the drawing board that we would just go, what? So yes, it's all about the next 20 years will be about the future of humanity and our planet in both the far out technology, but also this other part of us, the humanness of us, and fighting for our humanity to stay connected to our humanness. So androids, all of that, you know, we'll see. We'll just have to see what unfolds. And wherever you feel most comfortable. For me, personally, I'm going to be waving the flag for humanity, keeping my humanness. I'm very clear about that. And lots of people aren't, you know, they're really up for having things shoved in their wrists and in their heads and stuff. Not for me, but anyway, I don't want to judge anybody who wants that, by the way. What is going to make this transition even more potent is Uranus. So Uranus is the planet of surprises, shocks, sudden awakenings, is going what we call stationary direct. At the moment, it's going backwards. And on the 26th of January, so just after 6 days, within 7 days of Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's going to stop. It just goes stationary, and then it's going to go forward. Now, when a planet is stationary, astrologers feel like it just boots up its energy. So, yeah, Uranus is shocks, surprises, explosions, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, all of the above. So again, we really don't know whether that will manifest. It may manifest on the day, it may not. I mean, I think you've got to understand that the dates are, they're kind of pinpoints, you put your pin in, but these events, and there have been a lot of earthquakes recently, a lot of volcanic eruptions. So it's all part of this very, very potent time we're living through in January. So, and with Uranus thrown in the mix, I would expect the unexpected personally. I would. So yes, I think it's going to be quite interesting. It could also be because Uranus is in the constellation of Taurus. Taurus is about money, possessions, values. So it could be, there could be a sudden financial stuff happening that we're going, ooh, didn't expect that one coming. So just be aware, just be mindful and aware. And it's also this stationary direct on the 26th. The energy sets up, it sets up the great conjunction that's going to be happening between Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus on April the 20th. And I'll talk about that in a minute as well. So that's the second biggie. So the first biggie is Pluto moving into Aquarius. Second real biggie is Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, okay, on the 20th. So yeah, I don't think this first half of the year is for the faint-hearted, personally. I think we've got to be aware of things coming at us that we don't expect. It's very disruptive energy, very disruptive energy. The reason being that Mars is going to be playing a game within all of this too. So yes, it's about just making sure that if you're feeling very fearful, it's just finding ways to build resilience. I think this is the most essential thing that we can do for ourselves now, is to find our courage, to find our resilience, to come together in community, to support each other through a very disruptive time. I'll put it that way. And something, it is manifesting. We know it is. I mean, we have just look at the Middle East. It's very uncomfortable at the moment for all of us. So there is a lot of fear in what I call the zeitgeist, in the collective. And it's just making sure that you're not getting sucked into that. And I would say to people who are fearful, just don't watch the news. Don't. Find other ways of informing yourself, but don't watch it. Don't buy into it. It's not helpful at the moment. We know shit's happening, but we don't have to see it as well. It's a lot of people being hugely traumatized at the moment by what's happening. So it's about really looking after ourselves. So, okay, are we okay? Okay. So yes, just as a broad outlook, February, April and July are going to possibly be quite pokey energetically because of the Mars influence. So I won't say well, we know there's war in the air because we can see it, but it may peak at those times. So we'll just have to wait and see. And as I said, just look at courage, resilience, building resources, helping yourself to feel as safe as you possibly can, and listen to your intuition. If you feel like, I don't want to get on that plane, don't get on. I'm not saying they're going to crash, but don't get on them. Or I don't want to go over there because it doesn't feel right, then don't. It's really is drawing on your intuition. So there's another really interesting time coming for us in February. And this is when the North Node conjuncts Chiron in the sign of Aries. And our North Node is our collective destiny, or if you want to call it karma, where we're heading collectively rather than where we've come from. That's what we call the North Node. I'm not going to go, that takes a whole class. So, but just take it from me that energetically, our collective destiny is being highlighted in Aries. To reach the North Node, we really need to step into the unknown and set off on our hero's journey. And I think all of this is the perfectly beautiful dance during the first part of this year energetically to enable us to do this. And I think some of us are going to have to walk the burning ground, that ground of fear. I think it's just part of the deal of our collective destiny, which is about sort of reclaiming ourselves, looking at our past traumas, our ancestral traumas, our childhood traumas. This is the time to really address that. And by addressing, Chiron is about the wounded healer. That's the archetype. And it's the place where we're most vulnerable. I prefer to use it like that rather than the wounded healer. But where are we most vulnerable? And when we address that, that's when we start building resilience. We start filling up the hole, or helping ourselves to understand what resilience and courage means. It's hugely courageous to do this journey as a human being, actually, and it's going to come to the fore very strongly this half of the year. So I think what's happening when Chiron and the North Node get together, we're going to be given the chance to acknowledge our vulnerabilities and the vulnerabilities of humanity. You know, we're in the age of Aquarius now, And Aquarius is about us, society, humanity. And I just feel like this is a time of how do we work on ourselves, and what do we need to do in order to reach out to our personal destinies and our collective destinies, knowing who we really are. And I think that's what stops all of us, doesn't it, from stepping forward when we don't know who we are and we're sort of floundering around in the dark. So Chiron meeting the North Node in Aries. Aries is all about I am. So this is a really wonderful chance. And I think when we're feeling very disrupted and scared or unsettled, that's a really great time to go, okay, well, who am I within all of this? What can I do for my own healing, my own sense of self, so I can feel more grounded and more able to deal with this very uncomfortable transition that we're going through. Does that make sense to everyone? Great. Okay. Then we come to March. It doesn't stop, does it? Oh, God. This is the spring equinox. So the equinoxes are much more powerful than just the moon being full or new. And this is it. So on June the 25th, we've got the lunar eclipse, which is the full moon in Libra. And Libra is all about cardinal air. So, and the influences can last up for about a year. And the equinox happens when the Earth, the lunar eclipse, I mean, happens when the Earth moves between the sun and the moon, and it turns the full moon shades of kind of reds and browns. It's lovely when you see it. So it's a time of completions, of letting go, of culminations, and it's going to be flavored by the Libra Aries axis of relationships, how we relate to each other. Do we do that well? Do we have an issue around how we relate in relationships? And eclipses bring this to a head, personally and collectively. And I think that's going to be very interesting because, gosh, what's happening in the Middle East is all about relationship or lack of. So there can be also issues around triggers, around legislation, laws, contracts. That's very Libra. Important decisions, that's Libra. Yes, so we'll just have to see again how this pans out, both individually and collectively. Yeah. So then we have the total solar eclipse, which is the new moon in Aries. The full moon has been in Libra. The new moon is going to be in Aries in the next month in April. And this is going to be able to be seen. So this is the total eclipse, this total solar eclipse. So the moon will be moving between the sun and the earth. So it'll be covering the sun completely. And this is going to be able to be seen in America. And the path of the eclipse is incredible. It goes right through America. And then even more excitingly, the eclipse in October goes right through the other side and it crosses over in North Texas. So the Americans get very excited about this. I mean, wow, especially in the year of their elections. So anyway, let's go back to this particular April eclipse. So we're talking about dynamic, fast moving, pioneering, assertive energy, Aries, assertive. So it's going to be about action, discovery, passion, maybe war, maybe anger. You know, Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is, you know, he gets a bit pissed off and he likes to go to fight things. So tempers may fray, skirmishes might break out. It doesn't have to be that, but it's possible. And also at the same time, it can also lead to new discoveries. Aries is pioneering spirit out there. So it doesn't have to be negative, But I just think because it's so disruptive at the moment that we just need to be aware and tune into our intuition all the time. Is it, you know, do I feel okay moving over there, traveling over there, going over there? Just listen to yourself. It's possible because of this solar eclipse, solar sun. It's in Aries, fire. It could be that there's a lot more fire and drought around the world. We'll see. We'll see what plans out. And as I said, these spring eclipses set the theme for the total new moon October eclipse in Libra in the US. So I would say this would give us 7 months to think about how we want to create new ways of relating to each other, improving our relationships, dealing with difficult things in our relationship, and both personally and collectively. So it's a kind of this balance between mine, which is Aries, me, and Libra, which is us, ours. So it's a very good time to the 7 months between the eclipse seasons. It's a good time to really think about, you know, do I need to do some work around the way I relate to others and to myself? This brings us into April, when the second biggie happens. Jupiter conjuncts Uranus in Taurus. Another hugely auspicious astrological day, which all astrologers are waiting for. So the themes are around breaking free, that's Uranus. It can be around financial stuff, that's Taurus. Earth changes, Taurus. Possessions, values, and resources. Jupiter expands everything. Uranus is the planet of change and shocks and earthquakes, and it's coming together with Jupiter, the planet of expansion. So, you know, kind of hang on to your hats here. There could be volcanic shocks on volcanic eruptions of every sort, and the higher aspect, and there's always a higher aspect to this, personally and collectively, is Uranus is the great awakener. So this could act as a massive collective spiritual awakening. Uranus is about spiritual awakening. You know, the blindfolds just falling off, going, oh, I see. So we'll just have to wait and see about that. And the more work that we do on ourselves now, and the more that we build our inner resilience and our spiritual resources, the more perhaps we will be enabled to have quite a strong spiritual awakening, which the world needs it. Humanity needs it. We need to wake up now, get real. Yeah. So this particular conjunction in April the 20th is very potent for Israel and Palestine, because when their nation charts, astrological charts, were created in April 1948, both a nation's charts were set at 20 degrees Taurus. So this is exactly the degree of this explosive conjunction. So let's hope there is a massive spiritual awakening within the Israelis and the Palestinians, that they go, we're not going to do this anymore. Let's hope. And all the Middle East join in together. That's all we can hope for. And I'm hoping for that. I'm doing the Aquarius hope for that. Yeah. Having said that, things may not kick off completely, because Taurus is fixed earth. Taurus doesn't like change, hangs on to stuff, that kind of thing, until Jupiter, the Lord of expansion, moves into Gemini in May 25. Gemini is mutable air. It's about learning, exploring, communication, research, writing, speaking out. It can be about scandal and journalism and the trickster. And it's a totally different energy to plodding, slow moving, hanging on in there, Taurus. So we'll see. Maybe, let's hope that whatever happens around about this great conjunction, as it's called, it will set the scene, or the disruption will be such that by 2025, May 25, we will be doing this differently. We will be communicating differently with each other in new ways, in more exploratory ways, not hanging on to the rage and the vengeful. It's the vengefulness, I think, that really needs to be broken open. So it's huge what's happening this year. It's absolutely enormous, and it's never happened before. So yeah. So right, this takes us to September, which is the beginning of the second eclipse season. And this is going to be marked on the 17th of September by the full moon eclipse in Pisces. So this is going to be, themes are linked to our soul's growth. Pisces is about spiritual growth, soul's growth. So it's a time for introspection, prayer, retreat, spiritual practice, and exploring what behaviors and traits no longer serve your highest good. Highest aspect of Pisces is this sort of sense of higher purpose. It's highly creative. The lower sense of it is confusion, deceit, addiction, wanting to escape. And we really are, aren't we all sick of those patterns? I am anyway. So so this is a wonderful time to release suffering and the old wounds and old worn out patterns of childhood, and really about opening up with compassion. Pisces is about compassion for the plight of the human condition. We're all in this together. That's Pisces. Aquarius, Pisces, we're in this together. And for yourself, and being of service, spiritual service, this is Pisces again, in whatever way that works for you. So it's a very, very important lunar eclipse, full moon eclipse, and this sort of sense of, let's hope we're getting it. Let's hope I don't know if anybody's heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, but she was one of the great sort of mainstays of death and dying. She was one of the first doctors to talk to the dying and interviewing them. And I did a lot of training with her organization, and she said that there were 4 pillars that we human beings are created on. One is the physical, the mental, and the emotional. The 4th is the spiritual. If we do not attune to our spirit, if we don't create a strong link with our spirit, we are on a 3-legged table that and the 4th leg is missing. And guess what? The table falls over. So this is such a time, this year is such a time to stop looking out and come in and build your own inner resources. Take the Capricornic energy, take whatever you've learned, whatever it is for you, and build your inner resources, connect with yourself and whatever you perceive the divine to be. And then you'll have a sturdy table within yourself, sturdy 4 legs to your table. Okay. And if you feel thinking, oh, I'm not very, very safe, then do some work on the spiritual connection, the higher spiritual connection. Does that make sense? Okay. Right. So then So we've got the full moon eclipse in Pisces, as we've said, that's big in September. And then we've got this immensely auspicious day, which is the October the 2nd, when the total solar eclipse, the new moon, is in Libra, and it is revisiting the full moon eclipse theme set in March, which is all about relationship. And the themes again also are around relationship, but this time it's focusing really on new agreements, new contracts, perhaps global alliances. Wouldn't that be great? Settlements, mediation. And yes, even if there is upheaval, we'll be learning from it. We'll have taken this year's experience of the upheaval and disruption and maybe saying, let's do it differently now. So, and as I've just said, it's terribly auspicious in North Texas in the US, because this is the crossing point of the April eclipse, the path of the April eclipse and the October eclipse. And it's quite unusual for the eclipses to happen over land. Because we've got such a vast expanse of sea on the globe, they often happen at sea more than they happen in land. So there's something weird going on here energetically, because, you know, it's this sense of this is happening during the US Pluto return and very near the US elections. So interesting, mediation, settlements, agreements. Let's hope. Let's hope it's about us rather than leaders who are about me. That's the other side of Libra, is Aries, me. So let's hope that something shifts there for them. Yes. So that is, oh yes. So that is the major experiences that were happening this year. I can talk about, should we just have a quick chat between ourselves? So it's just before I can go on a little bit longer, but should we just have a quick chat at the moment about where you are and what you've heard? And if anybody's in the chat box, if they want to ask questions or for me to answer anything.
So did you say, did I miss July? Did you mention what was going on in July?
Let me see. July. Actually, there isn't a lot going on in July, which is rather nice. April to August. I mean, there's stuff going on, but not this major stuff.
Okay. Okay.
And I think we've probably got enough to deal with without any more happening, to be fair.
No, you just said that February, April, and July were pokey, and I wrote that down, and then I had little subsections.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Is there anything else anybody wants to say or ask questions? Or I don't know if anybody's who's listening in wants to ask any question. Are they able to?
I just want to say, first of all, thank you. This is amazing, so much, and it's so aligned to a lot of what I've been reading and hearing, and but you've just put it in a different way, a more personal way, I think, which is lovely. And for me, it's really feels very hopeful, because although you've mentioned all the change and a lot of sort of chaos and big shifting points, all this self-work that I've done for the last 10 years, interestingly enough, makes me feel really sort of robust and ready, if that makes sense, for this, and almost excited, even though I know there's probably going to be a lot of discomfort, but it feels like it's time. So yeah, thank you.
I think it is. I think, I think this is time for humanity to do things differently. How we do it differently, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yes, I do. I mean, I can run you through the outer planets and the impact that they're having on us collectively as they go through their particular astrological signs. Would you like me to do that? Gives you a little bit more of an idea.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Take a breath.
So I just tell you how validating this is too. Like I don't have your astrology background, but I've been kind of picking up these signs and telling people like there's big stuff coming and if you connect the dots. So this is so validating for me to
Good.
hear you say these things. So thank you.
Well, I just think that the more that we have, the more that we know, the more that we arm ourselves, if that's the right word, the more that we educate ourselves, the more that we can build resilience, because we can't stop what's happening. It's not possible. The motion is set, but we can educate ourselves in understanding the best way to respond to it rather than react to it.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's what growth is about. It's about stopping the knee-jerk panic, crisis, oh my God, everything's terrible reaction, and actually going, okay, so this is happening. What's it showing me? How can I learn from this? Even if it's absolutely hideous. And I think that's one thing that I do feel, and I hold my hand up here, it can sound very glib to say, white privileged person sitting here, by the way, to be saying, oh, well, and I don't live in a war zone. I don't. And I'm conscious of that. But I feel that if we can just connect with the humanity of what's going on, then we can tap into this compassion, and we have to do things differently. The way we've been doing things, it doesn't work. Chucking bombs at each other does not work. That's the big thing.
But the systems also don't work. So those systems that are breaking down, that's all the Capricorn that's kind of falling away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And there is going to be a lot of hanging on to some people are not going to want to let go. There's going to be a lot of dictators knocking about. They won't be knocking about in 20 years' time, but the transition is very strongly about the old ways of going, and people who don't want change. And there's a lot of people, I don't want to be rude, but it is the patriarchy. And I've got this vision of going, right, blokes, okay, all the wives of the politicians across the world, step up, send your bloke in wherever he wants to go, but he's not allowed to have anywhere near the decisions that you women are going to create now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to knock men, because that's not what my business is. And we have to do things differently. And the male patriarchal old boy stuff, the tyrant, doesn't work. Not in our new world. So the women have got to step up, and the men have to stand beside us. We can't do without them. The universe is made of male and female energy. Both of us are needed. But we have to learn. And what I love about Aquarius, it's about diversity. So it's about bringing diversity onto the main stage. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just run you through the outer planets, which is Saturn, Uranus. I've actually talked about Uranus, so I'll just very briefly touch on that. Neptune and Neptune. We've talked about Pluto. So just the other two, the other three. So Saturn is the taskmaster. It's in astrology, we look at it as it's the lord of time. It's the teacher, karma. Again, I'm not comfortable with the word karma, but lots of people understand that. It makes us grow up. It makes us just get real. And it's really horrid when you've got this illusion going on, or whatever delusion you're in, and Saturn comes along and just goes, well, that's a load of rubbish. This is what's real. And you have to go, oh, yes. Okay. So Saturn, is everybody clear about the energy of Saturn? Yeah. Okay. So Saturn is currently going through the constellation of the sign of Pisces. Saturn, boundaries, discipline, is not happy in Pisces because Pisces is not about boundaries. It's not about responsibility. It's not about maturing. It is about expression, creativity, higher learning, sitting in the park, reading poetry. It doesn't want to take responsibility. It just wants to be. And Saturn's going, no, 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 you can't do that. Or if you do, you've got to put a structure around it. So, yeah. So it's kind of like, I think for me, with Saturn going through my own experience of Pisces, it's helping me to ground my spiritual beliefs. Pisces, spiritual beliefs. The new age can be quite fluffy, can't it? That's very, very Neptune Pisces stuff. And I think it's about reality checks. It's about what's really real, what isn't. And there's been a lot of talk about the ascension process and this sudden expectation of suddenly waking up in utopia, like, oh, from one day to the next, we're all ascended. Well, that is not going to happen. It isn't. We have to do the work, the Saturnian work on ourselves first. Saturn, self-discipline, in order to connect deeply and meaningfully with who we are and our relationship, whatever we perceive the divine or consciousness to be, in order to raise our consciousness. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So it's get real time. And so many people have said to me, oh, it's the, the fifth dimension. Yeah, cool. But you've got to do the work first. You can't spiritually bypass this journey. Just can't, because you'll end up in a delusion or an addiction or you run away, and Saturn won't let that happen. It's not letting it happen. So there's, so I think that's really important. So Saturn teaches about what's fact, what's fantasy. It's also the manifester. So it may create quite a lot of charismatic healers and spiritual leaders, perhaps mediums. There's a lot of people who channel on YouTube. There's a lot of that going on. But again, we need to check who is real and who isn't, who's a charlatan out there. And there's lots of very lovely, well-meaning people doing very, very floaty things, which is just fine, but just make sure you for yourself know what's real and what isn't. So Saturn forces us to pay attention, or to pay attention to the reality of what's going on, or we become confused, or we want to escape from the harsh realities of life. And so, yes, I just feel for me, Saturn is helping me to ground myself and my beliefs so I can deal with the anxieties and fear of living through such tumultuous times. Don't underestimate how tumultuous these times are. So just be real. Now, I've already spoken about Uranus, so going through Taurus, so we don't need to really look at that again. But I do feel like with this Uranus in Taurus, I think all of us have been forced to experience upheaval, Uranus, around our values and our relationships to possessions, our awareness around climate change. Taurus is climate, the earth, and the fact, and sort of the fact that old financial systems are breaking down. Now, Capricorn wants safety. It wants banking. It wants the old systems. And Uranus is going, no, sorry, mate, that's going. So it is about that. And do you know what? The old world is not coming back. It's done. It may have the last hurrahs at the moment, but it's done. So we all clear about that? Yeah, good. Okay. So I'm going to go to Neptune, Neptune is, again, the higher aspirations, highly creative, wants to it wants to be the dreamer, the mystic, the poet, and the artist. But it also symbolizes the addict who wants to escape from the harshness of life. And Neptune's energy is very potent at the moment because it's passing through its own sign of Pisces. So yes, and it has been doing for quite a while. So it moved into Pisces in 2012. So if you think back to 2012, what's your spiritual journey been like? What's your relationship with the truth and deceit? How have you wanted to escape from things that you don't like? It's all of that. Have you strengthened your connection with the divine, with God, whatever you perceive God to be? It's all of that, the whole thing. And Pisces and Neptune hate being confined. So it's all over the place. So yes, very interesting times with this Neptunian thing. So Neptune is going to be moving into Aries in October 25, where it will stay until 2039. So Aries is very different vibe from Pisces. Pisces, mutable water, boundaryless, God, whatever you want to call it to be. Aries, cardinal fire. So how is Neptune, the mystic, the dreamer, the poet, the artist, the addict, going to manifest in Pisces, the fire pioneering spirit? Very different, very, very different. So it could be themes around fighting for spiritual liberation. It could be themes around fighting for spiritual identity. Perhaps leaders with spiritual causes will emerge across the globe. Pioneers, spiritual pioneers. Gosh, we need them, who are true and honest and warriors for the truth, for the higher truth. Pisces, higher truth. And I kind of feel like do you know El Cid? Do you remember there's a very old film called El Cid, and he was this incredible warrior, and he went out. He was a crusader, and he had the big cross on his thingy, and he went out on his horse, and he fought everyone and won, and he fought against the heathens, and then finally he magnificently died, and he was such an icon for his troops that people he got stuck on his horse dead. They propped him up, and he went, and they put a banner in his hand, and he went. He went through his troops, and the troops didn't realize he was dead, and it was all about, oh God, sacrifice and fighting. It was just so Neptune in Aries. I just love that film. I think it was Charlton Heston's chest. Oh my God. So it shows you how old I am, by the way. So it's that kind of spiritual crusading cause that could well manifest. So again, it's really good to do your spiritual work now until October 25, so that when this happens, that you're willing to stand up as a spiritual crusader for the betterment of humanity. Yeah, it's really important. And it could be hugely a creative period as well, because of Neptune being such a creative spirit. And lots of mystics could start really making themselves known. We could welcome mystics into our communities as if they weren't weird. Wouldn't that be lovely? Or mediums, or, you know, just welcome them back as very valuable parts of our community. So over the next year, this is the time to deal with all your delusions and deceits and disappointments and confusions. And what is your highest truth? What is it? Just really identify with it. And it's also a wonderful time to hone your intuition, your spiritual practices, your psychic abilities, own them. You know, if you've got psychic abilities, say, you know, just work with them. Tell people that you have intuitions or insights, or go to startup development circles where you can work together psychically. If you want to do mediumship, it doesn't matter, or use your tarot cards, or however you open the door, become astrologers. Gosh, we need loads of astrologers. We're the army at the moment that's really helping people to open up to who they are. So that's our job right now. So yes. Yes. So, you know, maybe you'll take your place riding out on a crusade with your banner fluttering in the breeze. I just think that's going to be fab. So finally, finally, over the next 2 years, Saturn, which is in the beginning of Pisces, and we know, and Neptune's towards the end of Pisces. And as Saturn moves quicker than Pisces, it's going to be catching up with Pisces over the next 2 years. So this is the time to begin a pilgrimage into putting the sacred at the center of your life in a realistic way. It's time about addressing unresolved traumas and abuse, and taking your head out of those fake news conspiracies and rabbit holes, because they only work as a major distraction and fear fillers. And we don't want that anymore, do we? No. So you don't need other people to tell you what's going on. Of course, it's important to keep informed. Of course it is. But you are your own spiritual teacher. And this is a time to connect with your self-worth and to find what helps you to connect to your highest self. So when Neptune does move into Aries, you're ready for spiritual and creative pioneering liberation, and to become a modern crusader for the benefit of mankind. So on that, I'll finish.
Amazing. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
There was some that were coming up, but it's just, I don't know, it's just amazing that it's like all the things that, all the feels that are in the air actually have a grounding reasoning to them, for me, through listening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to sell into the panic. It doesn't, panic's not helpful.
No.
We are going through shit, and we will continue to go through shit, but we can do it well, all of us.
Yeah.
And I think it's this sense of being very, just being so aware that we are all part of humanity. Everything that's happening in the world is also happening to us, because we are all connected. And I think it's so important to acknowledge that we individually and collectively are going through these major, powerful, transformational changes into a different way of expressing ourselves in the world. Yeah. Well, we've got to, I've been reading a lot about something called panpsychism. And panpsychism is the fact that the universe is alive. And it only went out of fashion. It was the psychological mode of operandi until literally the 20th century, the sort of when the science started to overtake everything. And we've forgotten who we are. And this is a reclaiming of our true heritage. And what I absolutely adore at the moment, it's so Aquarius, especially people like Greg Braden and Paul Wallace. I don't know if you've heard with him, absolutely excellent on this. They are really connecting us back with our true ancestry. And the fact there has been perhaps 2, 3, 4 major times throughout the history of the planet, going back millennia, where human beings have been very present in whatever form that was. But we are part of a massive lineage, and it isn't from here. And we are from the stars. Even Brian Cox, who hates astrology, says we are stardust. And panpsychism says, well, the whole of the universe is alive. Therefore, stardust is alive. Therefore, we are planet and us are stardust. We're alive. We're alive with consciousness. And we're just beginning to remember this. Really important to take this on board.
Yeah.
Sure, I can feel my skin is just like, you know, alive with these ideas of there's so much falling away, all these
Yes.
blinders and the veil, and you know, it's like all these things are opening up to us, and it's very exciting if we don't put the news on and we don't look at it
or take responsibility. You know, if it's distressing you, turn it off. I think the other thing for me, and I find really helpful, is to be utterly grateful. I'm so grateful I live in, I mean, UK is falling apart, we all know it is politically, but what a safe country. You know, and so ancient, and you've got Stonehenge and Avebury and all these wonderful ancient sites, and I just feel they're holding us they're just holding the energy of stability. And dear God, may it remain like this when everything else is so falling apart, that I'm so grateful to live here. I'm so grateful I have my own house. I've got food in the fridge. I've got friends. I've got family. I'm so grateful. I don't know what it must be like to live in Ukraine or the horror of Gaza. I mean, I don't know, but what I can do at least is just be present with it without fueling the dark stuff with it, you know, the trauma of it. And I just believe all of us need to take responsibility for what we put into the zeitgeist. It's just make sure every day you just pump light into it. It's not negating the shadow, because without the shadow we wouldn't have the light, but we have to do this. It's our responsibility, for those that can, as we can, to hold the light. 100%.
And what a privilege.
What a privilege to be doing it this time of our life, in this time in human history. Yeah.
And how else do I send people your way?
Okay,
website.
so if they want, I mean, I'm very happy to be recommended for chart readings, obviously. I'm booked up until March. So can book people in after that. So it's just, if they go onto my website, suebrayne.co.uk. That will be lovely.
Definitely.